Alrighty, as I said, I'm getting back into videos. We're up here on I believe it's our third video. I'm doing these all in kind of bulk or doing ahead of time so that I could keep them coming out weekly. It's been about a month and a half since I've gone to the machine shop, but for you guys, it was about a week since the last one, and I'm gonna start putting the engine back together today. I don't know how to do it. I'm reading lots of manuals. I'm using the internet, using all the resources, which is something that anybody else on the internet or access to any kind of technology can do. So anyone can learn how to do this. I'm a newbie, and don't follow my lead. I might be doing stuff wrong, but it doesn't hurt to learn. Let's get to it. I'm gonna do some time lapses and then show you some of the important stuff. All right, so here's our engine. As you can see, it's very clean now, very sharp as well. I've learned that already. I cut my thumb a little bit. So first thing we gotta do is, of course, get our oil squirters, our crank, and the bearings installed under here. So we're gonna first flip our engine, make sure everything still looks good. So I'm gonna go grab the bearings and pick them up. Alrighty, so brand new bearings. Oh, gotta figure out where the camera is. There it is. Got brand new, I believe they are Clevite, not quite sure how you say it, bearings. And as you can see, this one has a little ridge on it. Now some cars use thrust washers or thrust bearings. This one has these special bearings, which as we can see are a little different from these guys, which goes right here on our third bearing mount, sorry. Remember, still learning. Give me a break. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quickly pull these out, use some brake clean, rinse all this out, make sure there's no metal shavings, and this is a part that we don't wanna move, so we need to make sure we don't have any grease or anything in there. Just gonna jump in here and say there's a little notch on the one side of our bearing cradles or crank cradle, whatever you want to call it. And then there's a little, I keep forgetting where the camera is. There's a little part that just juts up. Maybe it'll focus. Little part right on the end of the bearing that juts up, and also one side of the bearing has holes. The side of the bearing with the holes, obviously, goes down on the side where the oil comes from, to the top of the engine here. Then you just line it up with that little indent, pop it in, make sure it's flush, top and bottom. Nice and easy like that. And you do the rest. Alright, so now that all our bearings are installed, I have them in the engine block, and I also have them in the girdle. We're going to grab some assembly lube, and we're going to make sure all these bearings have a nice thin coating of lube on them to install our crankshaft. Oh, there she goes. Alrighty, I almost forgot a very important part. I almost just put our girdle on without putting any gasket maker in between. See, there's this little ledge around here that we should fill up with gasket maker. I'm also going to put it around some of these bolt holes to make sure we don't get any leakage. We got some ultra black gasket maker that I'm just gonna run around the edge.
You used to stop this world from spinning. Like Superman, you were the only one to find the strength in all that I was dealing with. This life like kryptonite.
Now, for the moment of truth, now that there's some gasket maker on there, I'm pretty sure you just need to go where this line is along the outside. If we have an oil leak, I guess I'll just have to take it apart and fix it. But let's get this guy on here. One of the upgrades I got here is from OTTP, their Ecotech main bolts. I wanted to go for studs, couldn't find them anywhere, so we're going for the main bolt upgrade kit that they have. They seem pretty solid. We're gonna put them all in hand tight, and we have to wait for that sealer to finish at about an hour or so. Another thing worth mentioning, when putting your bolts in, make sure to coat the end of the threads with oil, or so the manual says. I've just got some VR1 from Valvoline. Figured I'd get the good stuff while I'm putting together an engine, right? And we're only doing these hand tight. Alright, it's been about an hour. The next step is to do a certain order, and I'm gonna do one pass of 15 foot-pounds. So our first bolt, according to this guy, with the front being this side over here, is right here. This first outside bolt, gonna do one pass to 15 foot-pounds. That's tighter than, oh, that's 15. I'm gonna go through, do the order. I'll put it on screen so you could keep along. So let's keep going.
I know we grew up a little too fast. I miss the days that we chill and relax. Where did the time go? It all passed. Now I need to go back. I had no worries, but always had plans. Only thing I did was dig out the trash. Now it's much harder to laugh. Hard to get up and then work on my craft. I need inspiration. Don't need no validation. No more medication. Just try some meditating. I don't need you to save me. Feel like all of you hate me. Everything's been so hard with all the situations lately. I just need to numb the pain for a minute. I just wanna run away on vacation. I don't know what else to say now. I just need to numb the pain.
Alright, there's quite the process to get those OTTP bushings in there. I'm gonna try to show on the camera. You see that flat disc there? Yep, that goes all the way to about the third girdle, saddle, crank saddle, whatever. You can kind of see the shininess on one side of the oil galley that goes in there, and then on the other side. Hopefully that works. Now, to flip the engine back over, put the water pump in, and put this short chain kit on. So, before there were two shafts that were unbalanced that went in this hole, and there's a chain that went around that crank, up to this one here, and under the tensioner to this guy, under this guy, and then up over our water pump and back down. That's a lot of chain, and the balance shaft we deleted, so most people have an idler that goes here, but this kit I found gets completely rid of the idler and gives you a much shorter chain, which, as you can see, only would fit, oh, you can't see, only would fit to the water pump in the crank. So that's what we're going to end up putting on here. I have to go find my crank puller, my crank here, and then we'll get to that. Alright, we've got our, let's see, here it is, our water pump is on, 18 foot-pounds for all these bolts. One of the bolts, however, is under the timing cover, or part of the timing cover, so that one's not on yet. We have our short chain kit on. Note to anyone else who goes out and get this is wrong. See the little triangle that sticks off the end? Yeah, this one is supposed to be up here, and the one with no barb is supposed to be down here, because this bolt on this new guide goes into where this should have gone. And I screwed it up, and once they're in, they are in. It seems fine. I checked the clearance. There's more than enough room. This chain isn't gonna move. So if it does, oh well, we'll fix it later. But yep, that's a screw up on my part. So the next part, we're gonna get to putting some pistons in here. And then we have to bend the oil squirters because the new pistons are a little bit of a different shape, and we'll get to that part in a minute. So, got our brand new piston, brand new rods, and I have our rings set up. I'll explain it. Got our bearings cleaned, put on the bottom. And what we're looking at is a scrubber. At least I believe that it is what it's called, a scrubber, which also has these side rings on the top and bottom of it. And then we have our first ring and our second ring. So importantly, we have the top scrubber gap is at northwest side of our piston. Then we have our first ring gap at the northeast side of our piston. Then our bottom scrubber gap is at the southeast end. And then we have our second ring, which is at our southwest. So once those are together, we grab our ring compressor and make sure we remember our orientation. Let me open this up quick without throwing it. There it goes. Might have opened that a lot too much actually. Right. So finally got the piston compressor, or the ring compressor, my bad. Now from the instructions I've been reading, you want to leave about a 1/4 inch sticking out the bottom of the compressor. And then you just want to tighten it nice and tight. Make sure it's on there square. It's hard to do without a table or anything. Nice and tight so our rings are compressed. Next step is nice and easy. You gotta clean out our piston and lather it in oil as much as you can, because it's not gonna get oil for the first couple of seconds when it's started. You then slide it in. Grab a mallet or a hammer. Don't use the hammer part, use the handle. Make sure it's plastic or wood or like a rubber. You actually hit it became one with the engine. It started to thud a little more. So you flip her back over. And with our cleaned rod cap and bearing, stick them on here with some more assembly lube, which I did get on there. Now that our rod cap bearing is installed, get some of our assembly lube or engine oil. I'm using the assembly lube because this engine is probably gonna sit around once it's built here for a month or two until the kit gets in. We get this guy on here. Get our 2 rod bolts hand tight. Now this is where a special tool comes in. So our first step is like normal, torquing it down. My hands are slippery. Like normal, we torque this one down to 18 foot-pounds, which is not a lot and has me kind of surprised. So I'm actually gonna go in and check these. I'm gonna look up a couple sources. So there's our 18, barely anything. Get this guy as well. There's our 18. And then finally, for this last piston, there it goes. All right, now to our special tool. This is a torque angle gauge, I believe is what it's called. Essentially, once you torque it, they want you to move it an extra angle measurement instead of another torque number. Not quite sure why. Maybe I'll look it up, figure out why it's used or not. But for the final step of each of these pistons, you have to get your torque angle gauge on, set it to 0, and then this dial moves with your torque wrench. So we set it to 0, then we want to crank it to 100 degrees, which is right there, which gets pretty tight, so it makes me think that the torque might be up there a bit.
Bound only by frozen memories.